Welcome in, everybody. It's week 4. The Chicago Bears are undefeated, one of 7 undefeated teams left in the NFL. Oh, by the way, they've got a new starting quarterback. It's Nick Foles. He's in for Mitch Trubisky. I'm Dan Wiederer. That's Dion Miller. We're here to break it down. What do you think, Dion?
Well, if you had the 10 and a third quarters as the under to win, Mitch Trubisky would be replaced. You win because wow, that barely made it. I was surprised at when it happened, how quickly it happened. Like, why did they didn't do that at halftime? Not surprised that the competition is over and Nick Foles is the man moving forward. He looked and sounded every bit of an NFL quarterback, experienced, knew what to do. There was no hesitation. I even noticed a difference in Matt Nagy's voice, knowing that Foles is his quarterback now.
I think you're right about that. And we got to talk to Matt Nagy. We got to talk to quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo. We got to talk to passing game coordinator Dave Ragone on Monday. And I think you felt what you just mentioned, that spike in energy, this belief that they can do more with their offense now. They can get to more concepts in their playbook. They can bring more complicated things to the table on a Sunday and trust that Nick Foles can execute it by processing what the opposing defense is showing them. Obviously, a really strong performance in the fourth quarter against the Falcons, bringing them back from 16 down to win that game, throwing the game-winning touchdown pass to Anthony Miller. Oh, by the way, on a pass that Mitch Trubisky missed just before the first half ended. And so you just see a little bit of why the coaching staff was leaning this direction. To your point, I think we all realized that this was a when, not if scenario as to when Nick Foles would become your starting quarterback. I'm just not sure that any of us expected it to be in the third quarter of the third game with the Bears still undefeated.
Well, first of all, yes, I cannot believe that they are still undefeated. Their opponent aside, winning 3 games to open the season is hard to do. It's been a long time for the Bears. So whatever, you can don't need an asterisk for that, in my opinion. I think that what you just said, though, about the fact that Foles can do what they've wanted him to do. I mean, just the fact that he coming off the bench and he's coming in and he's ad-libbing stuff. He can say to Nagy, I want to run this play, and if it breaks, I know what to do from there. Mitch didn't know what to do from there. And he was being asked to do things that he wasn't capable of. He didn't have experience. He didn't have like a foundation to say, oh, I remember when I was in this situation and da-da-da. He had nothing. And they were asking him to do more than he was equipped to do. And this is what we've been waiting for.
Well, and you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago about how Mitch felt like he had a fresh, clean slate. And you and I both said, whoa, wait a minute. It's not a fresh, clean slate in Matt Nagy's mind. That was clear on Sunday. When Trubisky misses that deep shot to Anthony Miller at the end of the first half, and Matt's looking up at the scoreboard, trying to see what exactly went wrong and why that pass sailed 3 feet beyond the receiver that should have been in the end zone celebrating a touchdown, and then followed it up on the first possession of the second half by throwing an interception and not seeing a defensive back cutting right into the line of the receiver. You just saw the 2019 Bears movie playing over and over and over again in your head. Missed opportunities, bad throws, bad decisions, big mistakes, game-changing moments that just go the wrong way for you. And you could just tell that Matt's patience had been worn to a nub, and it was time for him to pull the plug. He did so, and now we see what Foles can do.
Yeah, master of coverages, Mitch never was and still is not. I think Nagy's never been more thankful for the mask, though, because if you could read his lips in those moments, you know that would have been inappropriate for television. You could tell how angry he was, how frustrated he was, just by the look in his eyes. And to make that change, I did find it interesting that he wasn't the one who told Mitch that you're not going back in.
Yeah.
But I understand Nagy's a relationship guy. He's a people guy, and he wasn't going to say post game, Foles is our quarterback going forward, because he wanted to sit with Mitch and talk to him about it. And I know that you've said it, and so many have given Mitch such credit for coming out to the podium after that game. And that spoke volumes to me too. I mean, he deserves to be praised for that, because that was not easy for him to do. I mean, watching him on the sidelines on this televised game, nobody's there. So everybody who's watching it on TV, and they kept zeroing in on him. Like, it was a tough situation for him, for his family, for the whole thing. And the fact that Matt took the time to talk him through it was good. And the other thing too, I feel like this is what they were doing all along, right? Foles was not a free agent, Dan. He was traded for. They invested in him. They wanted him here. So I feel like this is what the whole reason he's here.
Yeah.
But if they had said he wins the job through that weird COVID training camp, and then something happens and they go back to Mitch, it's going to look like such a stark downgrade that this was the way they had to do it. the fact that they were able to do it and they're 3-0
Right.
makes them look brilliant at this point.
I think everybody anticipated that this would have come after a loss, right?
Yeah,
After a game in which Chicago was banging its head against the wall, going, "How did our quarterback lose us that game again?" And for Matt to have that gut feeling in the third quarter and just say, "Hey, I think we can still win today, but we've got to get a change in our offense. We got to get some juice. We got to get some energy. It's got to be Nick Foles to provide it. It's not going to be Mitch today." It's a bold move. It's a bold choice, and it worked out for them. And now they go into October undefeated because they pressed all the right buttons despite playing very average football through most of September, right?
Yeah.
And so what a luxury that is.
Totally. I mean, I remember after they beat the Giants, and I think it was you asked Nagy, well, how would you assess your team right now? He's like, I'd say we're just okay. I think he would still say we're just okay. They looked just okay. They survived against a garbage team. And that's what, I mean, that's literally what happened. So now as the competition gets more intense, I think that we'll see what they're really made of. They don't have an identity yet. They're making a transition. They have to figure that out at some point. But I mean, it was pretty to watch a quarterback execute the way that an offense is designed to do it. I mean, he looked head and shoulders ahead of where Mitch is, and not surprised because of his experience. But gosh, I had forgotten what it looked like. It had been so fun to see somebody just come in and take control, and it sparked all three phases. Like, that was miraculous to me.
And let's see where it heads, because I hopefully people understand that Nick Foles is not going to come in and be this immediate savior where all of a sudden the Bears are a top 10 or a top 5 offense in the league. They're trying to get from where they were last year, which was 29th, back to the middle of the league. And certainly Foles gives them an opportunity to be an offense that's in the mid-teens, right? And can score on a regular basis. This is the stat that stood out to me about Trubisky. He made 45 starts before the plug was pulled on him. In 13 of those, the offense scored more than 20 points. That's staggering that only in 13 of 45 starts were they able to get past 20 points. And so what you see with Foles is the opportunity to potentially score 24, 27. The Bears aren't going to average 30 with them. They're not going to get to 30 every week. But if you can get to 30 3 or 4 times and bail your defense out like Sunday on a day where they don't have their A game. Remember, the Bears gave up 25 points or more on Sunday, and it was the first time they won in a game where they gave up 25 points or more since December of 2013. And so that just tells you that hopefully Foles gives that defense a little bit more of a margin for error, and now all of a sudden you can win games where you're not playing a perfect game defensively.
Yeah, well, and that's something too that I feel like now that because they're 3-0, we can overlook it a little bit, but that defense does not look right, and I'm still trying to figure out why. They did obviously in that fourth quarter. I mean, when you get them to go a bad Falcons team to go 3 and out, and it takes less than 15 seconds off the clock. I mean, like they were obviously in that all worked out very, very well. But I just have not felt the defense looking the way that we expected them to, especially for a team that's unbeaten.
No, on the first drive of the game, you don't expect the Falcons' best receiver, Calvin Ridley, to get past the Bears' all-pro safety, highly paid safety, for a 60-plus yard gain because the safety just wasn't in the right spot at the right time. So you didn't expect Brian Hill to break off a touchdown run where the Bears were tackling him like he was a skunk, right? They didn't want to get anywhere near him. They were just running away. And so some strange, uncharacteristic errors. But here's what I keep coming back to is the Bears had every reason Sunday to believe it wasn't their day. You miss a field goal on the opening drive. You have 2 touchdowns overturned by replay review. You have a takeaway, a Khalil Mack strip sack overturned by a roughing the passer penalty on Mario Edwards. You have an Akeem Hicks roughing the passer penalty that negates a third down stop. Everything's pointing to this is not our day. We're going to get back on the plane at 2-1 and just go home and say sometimes there's days like that in the NFL. And yet here we are talking about an undefeated football team because something within this group has this special blend of unity and belief and resolve and whatever it is that helps decent seasons become great seasons. And so now the Bears have to hope that persists past September. The competition is going to get greater here, but certainly you think that there's a little bit of that quality that you can't quite put your finger on that allows you to win games when you have no business winning games.
The only identity they've shown so far is resiliency. And maybe that is putting something together that is going to be special. I know Nagy feels it. Akeem Hicks said the same thing on Sunday, like something special is happening here. But exactly no one believes this 3-0 team should be 3-0 right now. And that is where we have to see what develops from here now that they've made this quarterback change. Because, you win the first 2 weeks with Mitch and then you win again in like miraculous fashion, but again the opponent's not that great. I don't feel like league wide people are sitting up and paying attention to the Bears. I mean, they're just not. They believe it. I mean, they could go 3-13. I mean, they still could, but at the same time, I feel like this week and moving forward with Foles will tell a lot about how special this bond really is. And I mean, I don't want to discredit his attitude and what he brings, because everybody's talked about it. Every stop he's had, the quality of person that he is, and how that even probably influenced how Mitch handled things on Sunday. I really feel like Foles was brought in for obviously to become the starter, but also because of what he brings off the field to a group. We saw it with Philadelphia. It happened in Jacksonville.
He's also stood on a stage with confetti raining down, with the Lombardi trophy in his hand, and the honor as Super Bowl MVP. And that means something to your teammates, because they know you've stood up under the greatest pressure that the sport has to offer and succeeded in it. And so that means something to the guys around you, and it's going to mean something to this Bears team going forward. You mentioned whether the rest of the world is talking about the Chicago Bears right now. Here's the other 6 undefeated NFL teams heading into the month of October: the Seahawks, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, and the Titans. I don't think the Bears are on that level. They're not.
No.
I think when we got to halftime of that game Sunday, I was firmly entrenched with the belief that yes, this team is still just okay. They're a middle tier football team that's going to need a lot to go right to be considered a team that can contend for championships into December, into January, and beyond. But hey, they're 3-0, and now you've bought yourself a little bit of wiggle room. You bought yourself a little cushion. And here's the upcoming 6-game schedule that I think is going to teach us a lot about whether this group is just middle tier or whether they can improve and join that list of teams that we just mentioned. You've got the Colts and the Buccaneers in home games coming up. Then you go to Carolina, follow with the Rams, the Saints, and the Titans. Wow. That's a 6-game stretch that's going to tell you a lot about whether this football team has all of the things it takes beyond the intangibles to play winning football on a regular basis, and we'll see what they do with it.
And staying healthy is a big part of it, which is why the loss of Tariq Cohen is a big deal. I've loved the toughness I've seen from David Montgomery. I mean, I feel like he's already taken a big step early in this season, but staying healthy is a big deal. And then you see the Titans going through this COVID-19 thing. I mean, you got to keep your fingers crossed that they continue to follow protocols and they're able to continue to play, because you don't want to start building some momentum and then have a hiatus like every other sport in the world had to do this year.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, 3 Titans players, 5 personnel members return from the trip to Minnesota and test positive for COVID-19. And so now all of a sudden you've got the Titans closing down their facilities, the Vikings closing down their facilities, their games against the Texans and Steelers this weekend suddenly in doubt. And now all of a sudden you wait for the dominoes to kind of fall and figure out where this goes. Obviously, the Bears dodged a scare in Atlanta with rookie cornerback of the Falcons, AJ Terrell, testing positive for the virus, and the Bears were still able to play. They were still able to play that game, which gave them that miraculous comeback, which gave them that 3-0 record. Right. And so we'll see how everybody troubleshoots this dynamic, which, as we've talked about for a long time, it's going to be a minefield getting from here to the Super Bowl without any major disruptions. We'll see where they handle it. But man, what an eventful Sunday. What an eventful week it is beyond that, with Nick Foles taking over the steering wheel, and who knows where the season goes from here.
National Coffee Day. I need tons of it today. It's been a wild. That was wild. We've got 2 playoff baseball games going right now. I mean, drink up.
Remember those days when there were no sports, when we were just sitting there?
This is, again, I say, if this is 2020 redeeming itself just a little bit, sign me up. I'm on board.
Cubs, White Sox already in the playoffs. The Bears well on their way. When's the last time that happened where you had the trifecta?
That's research, Dan. I'm not doing research.
Yeah. We'll save our research for next time. Look it up, and the next time we talk, you'll bring that to the table.
You got it. I'm on it.
Thanks, Dion. Talk soon.
You bet.